please everybody, if you've, if you've attended any of the conventions, you think about, oh, I should take a picture of this, and you go on to someplace else. And but Barb took all the pictures. So Barb, thank you for doing that, and thank you for sharing today. And we'll let you take it away. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Russ. Okay, this is, if you notice that the dates are a little bit different here because the convention wasn't quite that long, it's because Fred decided he wanted to go early so that he could attend the board meetings and things that happen before a national convention. So that's what we did. We went early, and he did that. In general, the convention was at the Marriott Grand. I didn't take any pictures of that because it's kind of hard to take pictures straight up in the city of downtown St. Louis. The facility was pretty nice. There were the clinics and things were on one level, and then there was the registration and everything on another level. And it was pretty well signed. You could find your way around pretty well. And as it was in St. Louis. So, okay, Fred. There. So yeah, you had to go see the arch if you were there. So we just did take one little walk down to the arch, basically to buy a souvenir. So we did actually go see it since we were there. This was the line of people waiting to check in at the convention at one of the early days. And I've got these first few pictures are going to be kind of general things that were happening at the convention. There's some of the layouts and things. I didn't get everything, and I apologize for that, but I got some things so that you can get a flavor of what was going on. The Mud Hens were there, which was a narrow gauge society, and this was an HO layout. And I thought this was rather interesting. To me, that was the naked part of it when they were assembling it. Since we were there early, we got to see all this stuff. So those kind of remind me of those things in Star Wars. I don't know what they were called, those tall things, but then it looked very nice once they got it all skirted. So the Mud Hens was one of them, and then this Fremo Inn was there. I didn't get any pictures, or if I did, I chose not to put them in because Fred told me I had too many pictures. What?
Didn't want to show Fremo Inn.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that maybe okay? So then there was this O-scale 2 rail. There were also the things that you normally see at a national convention, the SIG rooms where all the people had layout ideas and operation ideas and people that you could meet with to try to come up with an operation scheme or come up with a plan. Okay, and you might recognize one of these people. They also focus on letting you know what national conventions are going to be coming up. And in case you don't recognize him, that's Mr. Riley on one side of the table there. That's advertising the next year's Texas convention. And I will also tell you, I do have, there's a little handout in the back. So if anybody's interested, part of what I want to do here is, number one, make you wish that you'd been there to St. Louis. And number two, make you maybe possibly interested in going to either Texas or Long Beach, which are the next 2 years conventions. So I've included a little piece of paper that's got the links to those websites if you're interested. And it's also got some other information on a couple of the other things that you'll see later in the presentation. This was the Surfliner. This was promoting the Long Beach convention in 2024. Here's a group of some people you may recognize. There's Eric Wagner, John Lawrence, and Miles Hale, and then Mr. Robinson. And here's another batch of people here you might also recognize, Bob Ermschner and Tyler and Gary Dean and yours truly and Fred. We're just kind of hanging out in the lobby there. And this was some exciting news. They introduced a Women in Model Railroading special interest group. And this picture happens to be on the cover of the magazine this month. So that's Jasmine, who's one of the train couple, which you will see them again in here. And then Michelle, who is actually a curator at the Colorado Railroad Museum. And there's Cynthia Priest and myself in that picture. So we were excited about promoting that. Fred has already posted that and did get a comment from someone about flyers to put in the train or in the local hobby shops. So I need to check into that as well, because I think that's an excellent idea. There's a Facebook group that's already out there, and a couple of them, one for modelers and one for rail fanners. And there's already 100+ members in the Facebook group, and people are posting like crazy. So, and I think men and women too. So if you're interested in joining, the links are also on the little piece of paper. There's a little bit more about it. Tells you about what I just told you, the Facebook pages, and the Steam Sisters group is what the other one is called for the rail fan group. Food. Fred and I don't usually travel. We don't go to worry about the local cuisine or whatever. We pretty much go for what's convenient, but some of the food was kind of interesting. So this was a little deli kind of place called High Point, which was very close and convenient to the hotel. We didn't drive anywhere to eat. We just ate locally, pretty close. It was just kind of, you placed your order at the bar there and then at the counter, and then just went over and sat and waited for them to bring it to you. But this was the good. This was a strawberry pretzel milkshake, and it was pretty good. So then of course, barbecue. You got to go to St. Louis and have some barbecue. This was Sugar Fire, and that was a local barbecue place. So try to make you hungry again just before lunch. There's some brisket and some pork, and that was one of our meals there. I didn't get any pictures of the Mexican food, and I didn't take a picture of my margaritas, but Rosalita's was another place we went to, was just down the street. There was a place called Over Under, and there was a little mac and cheese. That was one of their popular meals. And then this kind of a club sandwich. My favorite was this place called Pharaoh's Donuts. And the apple fritters were to die for. There's kind of in the lower right-hand corner of the apple fritters. So that was, like I said, that was my favorite. Once I discovered it, I was like, can we go to Pharaoh's for breakfast this morning? So
every morning.
There was a lot of action for the non-rail people, the women who came along with their husbands who weren't interested in the modeling. Project Linus is a big thing for a lot of them. And so they go up, and this was on the 20th floor in the ballroom, which is also where the banquet was held. But it was this huge room, 20th floor. You could see, pretty far on St. Louis. But so you can see how big the room is, and you can see that there were several women in there. There were sewing machines set up at one end. They were cutting fabric, making quilts. And there's a better picture of here's some of the quilts that they made in a week. So they just really, really, and there were games, there were magazines, there were puzzles. There was just all kinds of stuff for these women to do, if they weren't interested in the modeling. And I thought everybody needs a surge protector like this. I thought that I'd never seen anything quite like that. And I really thought that was kind of interesting. This was the Meet the President's reception. And as you can see, Gordy is busy working the whole time. And this was the train couple I was telling you about. This is Jasmine and Frank. They've got a YouTube channel, and you might have seen, I think Fred sent out some train videos that show some of what they're doing. They're in-scale modelers, and they're fairly new to the NMRA, I think. So, but they were a fun couple, and you'll see a couple of more. They show up in a couple of more pictures here. And there's just a shot of some of the ballroom. This was a particular ballroom. And you see there's Bob Frankrone and Kevin and Fred there in the foreground. And there's another picture. I'm not sure. Gordy's the only person I recognize. Well, there's Fred over Gordy's shoulder in there. Just another picture of that reception. Okay, and here's Bob Frankrone, Fred, Kevin, and Eric. And this is another one. There's Cynthia Priest and Bob Weinheimer. I don't know the other gentleman. And the other two on the right are a couple of gentlemen we met from the UK who actually went with us on the LD SIG tour. Mike Arnold is on the right. He's one of the directors of the NMRA. Clinics. Okay, there was a variety of clinics. There's Fred doing one of his clinics. That was his repurposed boxcar clinic, or repurposed rolling stock. I'm sorry, Fred. I was down there nodding his head as I correct myself. And Fred did, I think, 3 clinics, 2 different times. And Bob Francrone as well did several clinics. And also when people had canceled, I know Bob and Fred were both willing to jump in and do other clinics just to kind of fill in the empty spots. There's Bob Weinheimer doing in one of his clinics. And I didn't take a picture of everybody. Obviously, there were lots of clinics going on. I took the pictures of the ones that I was there or had some sort of special attachment to some of the clinicians. There's me actually sitting in a clinic, and that's my friend, Kristen beside me. We met Kristen at another model railroad convention several years ago, and we're in a clinic called Tall Timber, and it was done by Mike Brusky, and she showed how to make real tall ponderosa pines. You can see that's a pretty big tree. And this was one of the little dioramas he had showing some of the trees that he had done. I did this one because this was a clinic called something about water, and it was one. The reason I put the picture in there is because Fred was. This is called "Take Me to the River" by Dean Smith. It was modeling mountains, streams, rivers, and waterfalls. And Fred and I had taken that Bob Ross class. If you remember, he posted something about that. So when I saw Bob Ross showing up in that clinic, I thought that was kind of interesting. So I had to include that.
Yeah. Hey, Barbara, I just want to, funny, that same clinician was at the narrow gauge convention, and his thing was "Take me to the water." So
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. This one's okay. Take me to the river instead of water.
Take me to the river. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, now this one, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this one just because I found it rather interesting. This was John During's clinic, and this was kind of in conjunction with Gordy, I think. And this was it was called "Friends Lend Me Your Ears," and talking about taking the NMRA to the 21st century. And it's called "Lend Me Your Ear, a 10-point manifesto for building a powerful new 21st century NMRA." And he had 10 points, and I am not going to elaborate on the points, but I think I'm going to go ahead and read all the points just because I thought some of them were pretty interesting, and you might take one little something away from them. The first one was seek first to understand. So to know what you're talking about before you ask questions. The second one was dream big, but do small. The third one was speak with your boots. In other words, kind of do as I say, or do not as I say. The fourth one was learn to trust and learn to learn. The fifth one was listen close, but take care. And remember to solicited or unsolicited advice. So you kind of be careful about criticizing people. Number 6 was assume noble intent. You can't always know what someone's intent is, so you shouldn't assume that they have evil intentions or bad intentions. Number 7 was this is not a job. Number 8 was come to learn, stay in touch, or stay to teach, pay it forward. That was one that I liked a lot. That sounds like the MMR program, come to learn, stay to teach, and then pay it forward. The 9th one was I am the NMRA. And just remember that people look at you as an NMRA member and they see the NMRA and look at yourself and what exactly are you reflecting back to them. And the 10th one was people first, train second. So you need to keep in mind that people are what this is all about. It just kind of centers around trains. So hopefully I didn't take up too much of my time giving you those 10 points. And thanks, John During, for offering that advice to everybody. This is the beginning of the LD SIG tour. This is one of the highlights. This is one of the most fun things that we do. This is the group, and I decided I was going to try to take a group picture, and you can see it's pretty hard. And Kristen, my friend that I showed you in the other slide, you can't see her for some other guy's head, but she decided that she needed to take a picture of the photographer. So she snapped the picture of me and sent it to me. So this is our crew at lunch. We stopped at Subway for a quick lunch between tours or between layouts. You can see Fred and Eric and Mike Arnold are on the left side, and then me and Derek. I'm pretty sure Derek Murphy, I think is his name, and then Bob Weinheimer. So we'd stopped for at Subway and asked the lady to take our picture, which she graciously did. Here's the layouts are starting. Now let me find my notes on the layouts because I don't remember. Fred can probably remember them all, but I don't. So this one, and I had to be very selective with my pictures because Fred said, you only have 30 minutes. So I just try to take pictures of things that kind of struck me.
And you're 15 minutes in there.
Oh, okay. He's already given me a 15-minute warning. So I thought this was interesting. Looks like the dispatcher's desk is kind of under the three levels there. Fred thought this was really interesting. He knows more about the ops part than I do, but if you notice the cards, the car cards, they use some kind of checkoff system. So you check off as the cars are delivered instead of flipping the card or whatever else what you do. So he found that pretty interesting. The other thing was, if you look in the front, you see this little uncoupling pick, and Fred liked the idea. So I'll show people here. So he actually made one. We went out to,
I made 6.
well, okay. So you made 6. We went to Dollar Tree and picked up the little pencil grips and went to probably Lowe's or someplace and got the dowels, and he drilled the dowels out and put the little bamboo skewers in there and a little bit of Aleene's glue. And so he made some of these uncoupling picks. Now, the gentleman was saying that he liked them because of a lot of the fingers, harder for some of the people to hold on to. But now, what was it you said you liked about them? The color. You said that it was easier to see them. So that was one of the interesting things. Okay, this is another story. This is Logan. This layout. Oh, and I didn't tell you all the stuff about that back layout, that other layout. Okay. Logan is this little guy. He's a grandson of Brad. This is Brad Joseph's layout. It's a Union Pacific, Wyoming, Colorado, specific scenes around Sherman Hill, HO, double deck, 200 feet mainline, non-specific era. Logan is the little guy, and he's running a zebra train. He had a toy zebra, and he decided he wanted to run the train around with the zebra on it. Well, when we first got there, we didn't see Logan, and I kind of walked by and I saw this child with an X-Acto knife, and on around the corner in the layout, the grandpa's telling us about how, Logan is really quite trustworthy with, he can really run the trains well. And I said, well, something about he must be trustworthy. I just saw him back there with an X-Acto knife, and grandpa had a little bit moment of panic, I think, and went to find Logan, make sure that he was okay in an X-Acto knife. But you'll see Logan again because Logan was everywhere. And there he is running his train. I didn't get a good shot of the zebra, though. Okay, this layout is, if you see, this is John Peluso. And I can't, one of these that was the April 2020 issue of Railroad Model Craftsman. And that railroad is Frisco Lines, HO, double deck, 50s to 60s, 400 feet mainline point to point with a verbal train control. And I liked the fact this is where he's showing you it had to get into the layout. He has this little hinged section that he has to let a few people in at a time. So I thought that was an interesting little thing. And then I always gravitate toward the mobile homes. Just, I'm kind of from Eastern Kentucky, so I see a mobile home and it's like, oh, it's a mobile home. So I had to take a picture of that. And this was also interesting. He had a baby monitor that he was monitoring to try to watch some of the stuff behind the scenes. And there was a helix in it. He had it was cut out with glass that you could see through it. And then this next picture, you'll see Bob Weinheimer's reflection in there, but there's also one of those those mirrors, I don't know what you call them, up in the upper corner of it so that you can kind of see down into the helix. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And this was kind of to show that it's really long. And this one, I liked this. This is gross pet foods. If your dog likes it, it's gross. I thought that was clever. And the next one is, this is K10's hobby shop. This is a hobby shop, and this is huge. This is an HO 60 by 81 foot warehouse next to a hobby shop, mostly 90s era. The Santa Fe has 250 feet double track main line and a 19 track yard. The Southern Pacific has a 15 track yard and the UP has a 9 track yard. This was the gentleman who ran this hobby shop had Parkinson's, but he was there the whole time, and he had some assistance from his sister. But this was the sign to get in. And he also lived in an apartment beside it. So it was kind of part of the warehouse was made his apartment. And I thought this was kind of cute. The sign, the doorbell broke and yelled ding dong really loud in front of the apartment side. So, and that the gentleman in the beige jacket, second from the front, that's the one. This was a billboard. I kind of blew the picture up, but this is a billboard that was actually on the layout that showed the crew and the owner. This was another thing. This was part of it. If you could just kind of get an idea of how big it is, there was a section of it where you walked up to that one wall, and there's 3 separate stairwells, and each stairwell took you to a separate section of the layout. You couldn't, you got into one and you were trapped. You had to go back up to get to another one. But I thought that was kind of neat. There's one of those big yards. I don't know who that is in the background, probably another person. I thought this was interesting. This is one of the buildings on the layout, and they had the LED lights in the computer monitor screens in that office scene. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Hey, Barb, Russell here.
Yes.
Can you go, is it easy enough to go back 2 slides?
They're to the yard?
What are those yellow in between the tracks and all the tracks are in between the rails?
I'm not.
Those are Post-it notes.
They look like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They look like Post-it notes to me.
I was going to try and not answer anything, but I know Barbara wouldn't know.
Okay.
Those are Post-it notes, and each of those is a different destination track within the classification yard.
Huh, okay.
Thanks, Fred, for coming to my rescue.
Thanks.
You're welcome. This was a fire scene there, and this was interestingly created by a firefighter. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point to note. This is a different layout. Okay, this is Mark Lazuski, and this is a St. Louis, Troy, and Eastern Railroad, early 70s. And the American Steel Foundries is the focal point because the gentleman who the layout owner is the gentleman in the gray, and that was his father worked there. And so that was one of the focal points. And he had something called, this was a repurposed car that Fred wanted to get photographed for. It was a laboratory car where they did lab tests and stuff. I didn't understand the whole explanation, but that's pretty much our whole crew there that's watching or that's talking to him. There's one person missing. Well, me, I guess I'm taking the picture. So, but everybody else is in there as he's explaining something about the lab car. This was one of the little, I guess, duck under things, only it's a hinged thing that I thought was kind of interesting to look at how different people did those. We have some hinged to the side, and this one was hinged this way. And that's just where the hinge met. This one is R.S. Goring. This was July 2022 railroad model craftsman. So he was just a recent write-up in the magazine. And this was Fred's favorite. And it's the O'Fallon branch near Troy, Illinois in 1960, an HO single deck around the wall with 8, 10, and 12-inch metal shelf brackets for support in the peninsula. This guy was a sports enthusiast. His crew lounge was full of St. Louis memorabilia. And that was kind of interesting how the little, I guess, peninsula thing is sticking out of the wall there. And then, of course, that's Fred, the photographer taking some pictures.
Are those rails in the floor?
No, I think it's just stripes in the carpet. And this was another one of those little hinged things that this one kind of hinged into that curve or in front of the door, you see. And then the laundry scene, I kind of like to see the country, look at the laundry hanging on the line. So I took that picture. This one is Randy Meyer, and it is, I think, yeah, it is SN3 and S in a 26 by 54 foot room, and it's freelance based on the Denver Rio Grande Western, and it's built using a John Armstrong track plan, and there's some scenery from floor to ceiling, and that's the track plan. And if you look down in that lower left corner, it does say that it was prepared by John Armstrong. This is one of the deep canyons, a train coming out of the canyon. And I thought that was kind of interesting how the little curve where the train is coming through there and that corner, how that curve was treated. And now I come to the train show. The train show was held in Collinsville. It was not close to the venue. You had to go actually over across the river to Illinois. But it was a pretty good size event. There's this little train out front for the kiddies, and they all seemed to really enjoy that when it wasn't when they didn't have to let the batteries charge. And this, some of you guys probably can relate to this. There was a T-shirt in the store or in one of the stores that says, "Money can't buy happiness, but it buys trains," and they say that's the same thing. So some of y'all may think that. Here's a couple of people you may recognize at the train show.
Where's the post office?
That's the train show. And then usually at the train show, they have an MMR who does little demonstrations and shows things. So that's one of the women MMRs there doing a demonstration for someone. These are my friends, or our friends, Luke and Kristen. They're from Texas, and they're the people that we saw earlier that we've met previously, and that they were on the LDC tour, and we'd run into them every now and then, and run into them at the train show, of course, there. There's some more people you might recognize. There's Tyler and Gary Dean shopping at one of the vendors. Here's that train couple, Frank and Jasmine, checking something out at the train show. And there's Logan again. I told you he's everywhere. His dad was his grandfather, Brad Joseph was one of the main convention people in the convention, or the planners of the convention. So he was everywhere. He opened his layout. He opened and closed the show. I think he was always there. You saw him just everywhere. And Logan was there too, which was kind of neat to see somebody that young participating in so many ways. And I don't think he was familiar with this layout or this little layout so much. And then you may recognize Dave Ackman in the red, and he had his 2 grandsons at the train show as well. And they each did a little diorama thing at the Woodland Scenics booth. So they each created something and had a good time. This was kind of interesting. This was the W scale. This gentleman had built this wooden setup for children, and it's at one of the children's museums, but I thought that was pretty interesting. I think I sent Rick in there to take a look at it and see about building something like that.
No way.
I got a no way from Rick. And of course, there's always Legos. So I took a quick shot of the Legos, the Lego layouts. Gentleman was showing, this is something else that I've got back in the back too. There's this gentleman was showing some resin building kits. And his information is also on that little handout if you were interested in. He does both HO and N-scale resin kits. And he was showing us how it works with the mold and everything as far as pulling the resin out of the mold. This is a gentleman that you may remember from Fred's tour when he was doing this little live remote from the train show. This is Eric from Berkshire Design. And there's also a sample of what we purchased, the little strips there, plate strips back in the back. And Fred put a couple of ties on them. So if you want to take a look at those afterwards, and the glue. But he's a brand new business. 2 weeks, I think he'd gotten his product in and had his kids help assemble the boxes for the train show. Okay, then you have the contest, which now they're calling a celebration of models. And you'll see a lot of the things there because Fred and I took away some awards. So, and things are on this displayed in the back. This was one of the dioramas that I thought was interesting. And I believe this is one of the ones that won. I don't remember what it won, but it was very impressive. And there's kind of the back of it. It's got all these little handles on it. And then Fred is talking to the creator there. I thought this was interesting. Someone modeled this shell station, and it is a shell. So I thought that was kind of cute. And then Bob Frankrone also took an award. This was an interesting award because the contest chairman gets to select, and that's Bill Brown. He gets to select from the models what he thinks is worthy of special award. And Bob did not even enter his models, but he brought several of his loads. So he had a lot of the examples of the loads in there just on display, just so that people could see, since they had seen them in the magazine articles. And that impressed Bill Brown, the contest chairman. So he awarded Bob the award for that, even though it's typically a Fred's giving me the sign. I got to shut up. It's typically, one that's entered in the contest. There's me getting one of my first place awards. And there's Fred getting some of his first and third for photographs. And then here's the awards. They're in the back. So, but I got an honorable mention for a photograph, and then some of the craft things. The craft things, I'd never entered the craft things before. And I just, on the way out the door, practically, I said, let's just take a couple things and put them in the contest just to see what happens. And first place is what happens. Oh, and Ron is modeling the hat back there. So
If you were in the room, you see Ron.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were in the room, you could see that.
Is that the schlep hat?
No, it's a bucket hat.
That's right.
But he could carry the schlep bag with the bucket hat. And so there's Fred's awards for his photographs. But this one, I thought this is the box car that Fred had. Y'all probably seen this box car. This is one of the ones that he, I think, helped earn a merit award for his CARS certificate. And it was selected for most realistic rolling stock, which I think is quite impressive. That's kind of what you guys strive for, is to make it look real, even though it kind of breaks my heart to think about getting something shiny and new and making it dirty. But that's what it's all about. And took a third place in the scratch built freight car. And then the Iwata Award for the most realistic looking. And this one this was a cross stitch that won best of show. And that's a cross stitch. That is just exquisite. It's gorgeous. That one, mine, if it had been entered in against that, mine wouldn't have come in anywhere. This is the banquet. There are several people at the banquet. As you can see, Paul Volcker is getting an award, an honorary life member award. There were a couple of others given, but he was the only one present to receive that award. This gentleman, Eric, Fred, help me. Peterson from Central Indiana was recognized for over 60 years NMRA membership. He was happened to be sitting at our table, and he was, they kind of had everybody stand up during the banquet, okay, how many years of membership? And he was the last man standing and had, so that was just, I mean, since he must have been 18 or 7, whenever he was, his dad signed him up when he was a child. Okay. So I thought that was a pretty special recognition. And you could see Bob Weinheimer was seated next to our guest of honor, and the guest of honor there was Michael Gross, who you may or may not recognize as a model railroader, or formerly Michael J. Fox's father on Family Ties. So he spoke to us. This was Brad Joseph. This is the grandfather of Logan, the little guy that kept popping up in all my pictures. And he was addressing the group as I guess, person in charge of the convention. And I had to go back home and stop at Pharaoh's and get another donut on the way. So I think hopefully I didn't forget to show you anything. I did. Oh, there was another clinic I did attend. I always go to Jack Hamilton's tool clinics. So I did that one too. But so anyway, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you all want to, you're welcome.
You can take Q&A now.
I don't have any. So hopefully everybody wants to go to the convention next year in Texas and then the following year in Long Beach.
Any questions?
Oh, now Fred says I have to ask if there's any questions, and hopefully I can answer them.
Well, Barb, you answered mine about the Post-it notes. Very different there. So, but he's got a lot of classified tracks to keep track of. So
I'm like you. I got a guy. Gordy has his hand up. Okay, Gordy.
I just wanted to say thank you, firstly, for sharing all the pictures, because it was good that somebody got the opportunity to take a picture or 2 or 10. And also just my British politeness is irking me with the photo of me looking at my phone, and I just want to have the opportunity to explain what Gordy was actually up to. The train couple, I thought you might have mentioned it actually, but the couple that we were with there, the train couple, they hadn't heard from their division. So I was actually looking up their division superintendent, and I gave him a little call while they were sat there, and made sure that they were contacted by their division. And that's all resolved now very quickly. So that's what I was actually up to.
I wanted to be politically correct, and I didn't know if I should tell that story or not. So I'm glad you decided to.
That's fine.
Anybody else? Everybody want to go to Texas? Oh.
Well, I don't know. Is Riley going to have us down there? Best barbecue place in Austin, huh?
Yeah, come on down. We'll show you a good time.
Okay. All right. You heard it, guys.
Well, the registration's open for Texas. You go to Texas Express to their website, and you can register right now. And you can see the clinics and the tours and everything that's coming together for that convention. So I think St. Louis was good. There's over 855 people there, but I think Texas will be even bigger, and it's right near DFW Airport. Although I suppose for you guys, it's just a little drive down the street, really. But it's
compared to you,
there's less water involved. But you guys, it's right. It's the hotel is not underneath the flight path, but it is about 4 miles from the terminal building, and it's about 400 yards from the end of the runway. So I think you'll have no trouble getting there.
So if you go to the NMRA website,
the
Division 8 website, over on the left, you can click on conventions, and right there, you can find a link to the 2023 convention.
Am I dismissed?
Thank you, Miss Barb, for that outstanding photo presentation. And that's it for us today here, folks, unless there's any other questions or quick comments before we take off. We've taken enough of your time today, and appreciate everybody dropping by to visit us in the room and at home. And that's it.